check. Great. Doing what it's gonna do.
I feel like I'm
Grays are graying.
Yeah, a shower before school too.
Whoa,
the boys did not know what to expect this morning.
Who is this?
But they were also so good this morning because I was like, all right, boys, the cereal's on the counter. Cereal's in your bowls. Go, go, go.
We got stuff to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All
There
ready?
you go.
I think I'm there.
Awesome.
Are you action on all of these?
Say that again.
Are you
I'm
They're
live.
they're
I'm
they're
live.
live.
They're rolling?
Live. Everything's being recorded.
Look at that. So exciting.
Wonderful.
You guys are only my second interview in the new season.
Oh,
yes,
fantastic.
I had a couple booked, but then sick kids and everything,
Yeah.
so everything's
Yeah.
been moved around. So this is so second episode of season 3.
Cool.
Nice.
Congratulations.
That's
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm
exciting,
excited. So saying that, you should know that I'm kind of trying like a new, not even system, but like a new setup because I usually do the exciting questions at the very end, and that's always like the most fun. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we save the fun till the end, but then why would we not save the fun till the beginning?
True.
So that we
Yeah.
like break the ice, and then
Yeah.
my listeners get to learn like the fun aspects of you, and then we go into the cool stuff. So
It's also all about the hooks these days, right? So
Yeah.
you do want to ask the interesting stuff first, so the audience is hooked in, and they're
Exactly.
like, okay, cool, this is what they're going to talk about.
yeah, but I haven't. And I should also mention to you that I'm still awkward with my podcast, even though I'm in season 3. Like I haven't even introduced you yet, and that's like
all right.
very.
We've already started talking.
Yeah.
That's a very Becky thing to do.
That's
So
all right.
let's introduce ourselves. Do you mind introducing yourselves to?
You go first.
Sure. I am Yash. Yash
Okay.
Mamtora is my full name, I would say. I own House to Home Photography, which is a listing media company,
Okay.
and it focuses the focus is around the realtors and buying and selling of the homes. From that, I had gained enough experience to learn about the equipment, the challenges that come with like audio engineering and video recording, and it really took me. It was really interesting to me, and I really took a hold of it, and I expanded into recording people and recording podcasts, and that's what gave this place the birth. This is Studio Marigold, Marigold Media Studio, and Cara will take over
Yeah.
from explaining what that is.
I'm Cara Vandermeer. Yash and I are married.
Yep.
First and foremost point.
Yeah.
So we work together on our sort of companion businesses is usually how I describe them. But yeah, Yash's business was doing really well. He found like a really great niche with real estate listing media, and that like there was basically not really anyone doing it in our direct area, that people were bringing people in from the city or from Owen Sound or whatever. So that was sort of a nice entryway for us, but also I'd say like one thing that you provide and that you really pride yourself on is like the high quality of work that you provide. And like a lot of that comes from like his knowledge and the equipment and all that stuff, but that's a big part of our business. So
See, I didn't even mention the quality
I
because it's
know.
given. You know?
Yeah.
I'm quality 100%.
I'm here to
glad that
support
you're
you
here.
and get all the right points out. So that's like, that said, Yash started doing sort of more like content creation with realtors. And we were shooting some stuff like in our basement, which is a nice basement and we enjoy spending time down there. But like, I think we both felt, but like as people who have a certain standard of the quality of thing that we make, I was like, you can tell that the cat has scratched our couch. You can tell that the ceiling's a bit low. Like it's just, it's not this beautiful, like light-filled professional space or whatever. So we did start, I was working on a graphic design contract that wrapped up, and Yash said, I think I need some help and I need your help and I would like you to come work with me on the business. And I said, great. I don't want to do this contract again. So that's perfect for me. And I'd love to work with you. And then we basically just at that point started looking for spaces, and we were really wanted it. It was really important for us to have it be in Walkerton. Like we want to not, you do a lot of driving out here, which is fine, but like we have a young child, we have a house in town. Like we're new parents, we're new homeowners. We didn't want to be like so far away from our home base. And we also really like Walkerton. Like we enjoy it personally, but we want to like support it from a like community, from an economic standpoint, like from all those things. So it was important for us to like actually be in town, and we have a really nice downtown. So there's a bit of a like prestige kind of element to it, where it's like, we want to like join all of these like really great, really like service oriented, long-standing businesses that have been well-established businesses. So we looked at a couple different places, and it was a real like Goldilocks, too small. One was like way too big and didn't have a window. There was just no windows in it, but it was like 2,000 square feet.
For video work, that's okay.
That's
you
great.
Can set up the lightings, but our goal was also to rent out the space to the photographers.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest concerns challenges that we faced, that it has to have enough natural light. Because that's what a lot of photographers here do. They rely on the natural light. They're not all about strobes and flashes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's something that like we actually have talked to photographers about, that like we can contribute to that community, to be like, Yash is interested in this. He has the equipment. Like we could host a seminar on learning that type of photography, but it's not the go-to style photography in this area. And if we want to serve the community, then we need natural light to come into our space. So the megaplex with no windows, it wasn't that big, but it was a really nice size. There was multiple rooms, like,
oh, look at that.
There you go.
Oh, I'm professional.
Business is calling.
That's okay. That's what I love editing.
Yeah. So does
and I'm not kidding, but yeah.
Sorry about that.
No,
but like that big space was so big, but it was not having light was just made it a no-go. So anyways, this place came up, and there was just a bunch of sort of serendipitous things that happened with it. Like we had a relationship with the realtor who was helping with the lease process. And we were looking at the leasing information, and I kept thinking like, the owner's name seems so familiar. And I just did a little like search on Google, and nothing kind of came up. And what I should have done is searched my own email, because she had taken an art class from me. And it was someone who like, I just knew her by her first name. I didn't know to kind of connect, but had that feeling of being like, how do I know this person? Anyway, so we walked into the first viewing. Oh no, we had seen it, and we were walking in to like negotiate and sign the lease and whatever else. See our lovely realtor contact, and then also this woman who was like, oh, of course, it's you, my lovely, truly one of my favorite students from this art class. And it was just so nice. Like it just was such a great fit. And I'm quite a sucker for like an older building that has like that rich history, but like this place has been, the floors are original. They're very, very delicate, and we have
they are softwood.
They're soft. They're very softwood. They're papery. But they're beautiful. They add a really nice tone to the room. And one thing for us too is like, one of the first people who we had in was like, this might be too warm for some people. And we were like, great, noted, get the lights in. Do the stark white on the curtains. So we've sort of like tried to balance just what we think people would actually like use and come into and think like, this is a really like warm, welcoming, cool space that I actually want to like make some content in and feel comfortable to like talk to someone or stare at a camera or do whatever. So
like what is the passion behind Marigold Media? Because I can see a photographer being like, this is gonna be my photography studio, but that's not what this is. This is like a rentable photography studio for other photographers, but even more than that. So like, if you had to put it into like 2 sentences, what is Marigold Media? Studio Marigold Media.
Going forward, marketing is going to be all visual, and Marigold Media is there to help you every step of the way to represent your company in the best visual light as possible. That's what Marigold Media exists for.
Right. So your background is real estate, which is all visual. You can go online and you can see the realtor listings, and I can tell when they're like, when they use their own like cameras. Like actually I know like a very well off to do, or like a very important real estate agent down in the city, and she uses cameras, and I was like, how I would never buy this house. This might be the perfect house for me. I'm not even going to go look at this house if the pictures aren't visually appealing.
I'm so glad you said that. Before we go too far into listing media, for Marigold, because I write our marketing stuff and do our social media, our 2-sentence thing is that we are a professional media provider, which is photo, video, and visual design, and we are a curated natural light studio. That's it. That's our sound clip. Yeah. And like we used to be a curated natural light studio, blah, 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 first, but we find like the studio is kind of its own business. It's kind of its own wing, like the rental aspect of it. But when we got this place initially, we thought we're going to kind of balance like this rental aspect, this curating of a cool room, of a cool space that people want to come in with our media provision, media providing services. But really for us, like the focus actually has to be the media, because in a lot of ways that's what pays the bills. And also it is, I'd say, more sort of like where our combined passion is. Like this room is largely my passion. I love interior design. I love design. That's my background. That's what my education is in. And so to have a space that I can just like, I like it because it's a combination of like what I like and what I align with, but what I think would be usable and interesting to other people. But ultimately, like, it's a rental space. Like that's all it is. Like, and it's, you know, we live in such a beautiful area that I actually had quite a wake up call of being like, we have this natural light, but the best natural light is outside in Mother Nature. And like all the photographers in the area know that. So we're going to have Christmas come in, so we're going to have Christmas come in. It's going to come in very early. Like it's going to be basically the beginning of October. We'll be able to have a holiday set in here.
Oh, okay.
But then once we take it out for the season, I'll be renewing the look in this room. But the whole time all of that happens, like Yash and I work on media projects in the background. Yeah. And like by in the background, I mean like it really is actually kind of our main focus. It's our bread and butter. It's the thing that pays the bills. But what is nice is that we have this space that's not our basement, that's ready, that's nice, and that's like I like the styling, I've did it myself, but it's neutral enough that people can kind of come in and be like, yep, I can do this, I can do that. And it just means that we've been able to like add a sort of like a higher level of what we deliver to people because we have our own space. So initially this started as a 2-pronged business, rental space and media providing, but now it's really like we're media providers. We have this space that's ours that we use for our productions, but you can also you can also rent it. And in a lot of ways, this is the last thing I'll say, in a lot of ways it's taken pressure off of that side of the business, because I feel there's lots of benefit for us to just offer the space to people, to say like, you've got something cool going on social media already. Like, maybe I don't need the $75 an hour. Just come in, make a little video saying that you're coming in, you're doing this cool thing. And like, that works for us because we also have our own projects in the background. So, and they take up a lot of our time and energy as well. Like they're usually quite large scale contracts. So it's something that involves all of us and involves our whole brains. Yeah.
Oh, there are 2 more people that help us.
We have 2 photographers. Yeah.
So altogether, it's Cara and I and Cass and Tanner that make all this happen.
Okay. Yeah. Let's come back to Marigold Media, but I do want to know more about you guys.
Sure.
So, how did you meet? You said you're married.
We're married.
How long have you been married for?
I'll let you answer that. We got married in 2020. Whatever.
Okay, 10/10/2020. We've been this October will be 4 years that we've been married. We met in 2017 on Tinder.
Okay.
We're a Tinder success story.
Yeah. We were in Toronto.
Yeah, we were both in Toronto at the time. Yash was in Etobicoke and I was on like the east side of Toronto. So he'd always have to drive across town to come and hang out with me. But we basically, we met on Tinder. I had been single for quite a long time. Yash was like living in Calgary for a while and had recently come back, was doing like a school renewal. Like you had gone out to work and then you were coming back for school.
Sure. So this would be maybe my 3rd career change.
Okay.
Sort of thing. I used to sell cars and finance cars in Calgary.
Yeah.
And then recession hit there and I decided that my parents were always in Toronto. So I decided that I was going to come back, and I already know sales and finance. I'm going to learn service, and then I'm going to start my own dealership.
Okay.
Starting a business was basically had been my goal the whole time, sort of thing. So when I came back to Toronto, I enrolled in a program, and I got my apprenticeship and became a mechanic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when we moved to Walkerton, I was a mechanic, and I jumped from shops to shops, but nothing really clicked with me.
Yeah.
And that's when we had Jacqueline and our daughter, and I was like, I'm not really spending that much time with her. So
she was
ironic. Sorry, go for it.
She was born in January.
Yeah.
And it's intense out here in January. Like the weather is at its worst, sort of thing. I remember carrying her in from the car and being like, man, I hope I don't slip on our piled high driveway, because we've been at the hospital for the last couple of days. Anyways, so Yash was working, I think at the time in Port Elgin or like along the lake. So it was at least a 9-hour, if not a 10-hour shift. But then he was doing at least 40 minutes of driving, often in terrible weather. Over top of that, and I was home with our brand new baby, and I actually like struggled a lot like during postpartum, and like it wasn't a very good time for us as a family. Like it was really difficult, and I think we should also be honest that there was like problems happening at Yash's work that were like cultural, like in that like racist comments were being made. There was like, we don't need to, and we won't go too far into it, but like that was a big thing that happened, and it was a big like
it contributed, but my heart wasn't in that anymore for sure.
Okay.
And there were a couple of things that happened that contributed towards it, but ironically we were like, oh, how can we spend more time with Jacqueline? Let's start a business. And then of course business takes 24/7 of your time, sort of thing. So for me to think that I'll start this business and get more time, I'll spend more time with my daughter, was, I don't know what I was thinking there, sort of thing. But it all worked out. We were able to start house to home photography, and we were very glad that everyone in the area received us very well, sort of thing. And then it just kind of took off from there. We didn't have to turn around and go rely back on the mechanic's license that I had, sort of thing.
I was going to ask, what you did in Toronto before you came here, and mechanic wasn't even on my radar.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Car sales, not even on my radar.
I loved, if I was in Toronto still, I think I would have still been a mechanic. It was a different vibe there. It was a different type of work there. Country work out here in the country is a little bit older cars, a little bit of a different clientele, a different type of people that you work with.
Different coworkers.
Yeah. And I just wasn't into it anymore. And I was like, okay, what else can I do that I'm really into? I was always into photography. I always had a DSLR kicking around, and I understood the basics of it. And I'm the kind of guy that, I need to learn something. I'll probably stay up all night and maybe learn 80% of it through YouTube. Internet's a thing these days. So that wasn't challenging. Learning new technology wasn't challenging. My heart was already in it, and that kind of helped.
Cara, what did you do when you were in Toronto?
I went to Toronto. I lived in KW for my whole life. That's where I was born. And I moved to Toronto to go to school at OCAD. And I took my degree is in design, but my specialization was in illustration. I'm just going to pause because I have to cough.
Yeah, no worries.
I just have to cough.
If you need a water or something, I was going to say, I always have like a...
No, it's here. Water?
It's here. Okay. Sorry, it's the talking too much.
Oh, you know what? That's another thing. Working from home, I rarely talk. So when I come to these things, my breath goes like so bad so quick. I'm like, my mouth's just always closed.
I'm just...
There are a couple of times where you haven't spoken in a while, and then you start speaking and you're like,
oh my gosh, sorry. I didn't want to wreck our audio either.
That's all right.
Oh my gosh, no.
But yeah, so I went to OCAD for my degrees in design, but my major was in illustration. And it was awesome. Like I lived right downtown. I was walking distance from the school, which was really huge for me. And I just had a great time there. It was I was always a bit of a weirdo, and I went to a school full of weirdos. I went there and was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even close to the weirdest person here. I didn't wear a cat suit on the first day. Huge mistake on my part. Anyways, but yeah, no, I had a great time. I met I had a really nice, small but very solid group of friends that I met kind of right away, and we just stuck together. They're all people who are now professional, lovely working illustrators. So I've always done that as sort of a freelance gig in the background, but I don't know, I always just liked kind of having like a 9 to 5 that like paid the bills and gave me benefits and let me do the freelance stuff that I wanted to do and paid me to go on vacation, whatever else. So I worked in theater for a really long time, which actually like kind of weirdly contributes to this space that we're in now and sort of like making things look nice, but also kind of faking it a little bit. I employ some theater tricks in this space. So I worked in theater and administration for a long time and was like, I'd program their internal systems and stuff like that. And then I had an opportunity to take a contract with a company that did more stuff like this, production. They, like in the early 2000s, had made someone walking by, had made like a popular Canadian animated show and sort of like made a bunch of stuff after that. They did a whole bunch of things. It's funny, like they were sort of similar to us in that way, in that they would just kind of take these contracts. So I supported them in sort of like an operations role and did a bit of design. And then I actually had an opportunity to move over to Shopify. And it was nice because that previous contract I was on was in Waterloo. So I stayed with my parents, but Yash and I had an apartment together, and it was a cool job, but it was complicated.
It was a contract to begin with. So we were like, oh, there's only 9 months of this.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity. So that's why we ended up taking it.
And my parents were happy to have me. It was, I'd be there like Monday night to Thursday night sort of thing.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time on the GO bus between Waterloo and GTA. But anyways, I worked at Shopify for a long time. And I've always sort of had like a customer service background. So I led a team and then I did research with them. And then as I was going on mat leave, they were having a lot of like stuff going on. Like just the layoffs the first round of layoffs happened while I was on mat leave. And when I came back, it was a different organization. Like just the atmosphere was different. The priorities were different. The expectations were very different. And coming off of mat leave, I really struggled like with depression and anxiety, like postpartum. And so coming back into like a really intense environment like that, where the expectation was like that you are performing and delivering or you're not here anymore. Or see you later. And it like, you're in a very fragile, like that's not exactly the type of environment I ever want to be in, but like postpartum, you're kind of fragile. And there was a lot of, this is going to be totally fine. And then it just wasn't like, that's what it was. So I ended up, I'm going to tell this story because it's dramatic and kind of funny, but I ended up having just like a really frustrating meeting and just feeling really like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Where I sort of like left the meeting and took the next day off and was just like, I really need to actually think about what I'm doing here. Right. And I came in on the Monday and quit and just was like, Yash was so supportive and was like, this job is awful and is making you miserable. And it's just not for us and for our family right now. It's just like we've tried to do all these things to make it so that we can like have a better quality of life, spend more time with Jacqueline. And like, I was just such a mess working there. So anyways, I quit on Monday. And then on Thursday, unrelated to whatever I was doing, they laid off my entire team. So it was kind of meant to be like it was. And in that time, I hopped onto Indeed or whatever online thing there was. Yeah. I found this random graphic design contract with a not-for-profit. I love working for not-for-profits, and sent them an application. They got back to me within 10 hours of sending it in. I quit my job on Monday. On Monday afternoon, I had a job interview with this other contract. And on Wednesday, I was like, hey, good news. I'm not actually quitting to just like wander the forest. I have another job and I'll be taking this. And then the next day, my whole team was gone. And it was really like very jarring, and not like I really had a moment of being like, this is, and not to shit talk any organizations, but I was like, this is not a place I want to be right now. So this makes a lot of sense. The contract was really great. It ended up not being something that I was like, this is going to be my life's passion and I'll do this for a long time, but it gave me a lot of experience with like a side of Adobe programs that I hadn't used very much, and expanded my skill set. And then towards the end of it, Yash really needed help, and I was ready to come over to help support the family business. So that was it. And so part of this is that all the while I sort of do illustration kind of woven through this. And so I do all of our like branding, a lot of our sort of like visual marketing stuff is for me. But I also am an illustrator. Like that's something that I do. I have a series of banners that are coming up for the park next door to us that I did for the municipality, which are pretty exciting.
Yeah.
they're cool.
But yeah, it's nice. Like it's really been it's been such a cool transition. And I think like at this stage in our lives, like especially when you're starting your career, you're coming out of school where you're just like, what am I doing? I've done so many things and none of them are maybe like the thing I want to do. We came in here and I was like, oh man, I'm going to be able to use all of my strange skills and like they're all going to come together, and it really has. So sorry, that was a long period of talking. But.
No, I find just by interviewing, like just from starting the podcast and interviewing entrepreneurs, everyone has that story of like when the universe told them they were like doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And so when as soon as you started talking, I'm like, another one, another story of when the universe is honestly like, you made the right choice. And so even like you just mentioned, like whatever you've done after that wasn't the thing for the rest of your goal. It was still like being like, hey, I didn't make the world's biggest mistake by leaving Shopify and leaving the benefits and leaving the vacation.
And that was a big, like I've never been, that's something which like, you know what, I've probably not been a full scale, full-time illustrator because that part of it scares me. Like it was freaky to like say I'm not going to have better, like we pay for our dentist and the dentist is expensive, but it is so worth it. Like, and there's just, it's the day-to-day stuff that I do really value. And we joke about like, oh, we're so busy now, we don't get to whatever, but we do get to like have lunch and a little beer at 2 p.m. together on a Tuesday afternoon every once in a while. And like, that's what we want to do. Like, we want to work on our business and we want to like work and have fun and be creative. And so that's what we do. We're not ready to retire. So it's not the point of our careers and our jobs that we're like, oh, 5 days a week we're just like sitting at home doing puzzles, which is a wonderful lifestyle.
That sounds
no
fun too.
judgment, but just like not yet. Like we have, I don't know, we have lots of stuff we want to do. So
and one thing I would say is there were multiple times in our life where we looked at each other and we were like, is this the right decision that we're making? One thing that really helped us is we both looked at each other and we were like, going forward, the decision that we make is the right decision. Once we make it, we're not going to look back and we're going to try to make everything happen to make that, support that decision sort of thing. So once Cara and I were on that page that, hey, no matter what decision that we make is the right decision for us, everything kind of just became a little bit easier. You know, it became easier to quit a job and it became easier to start a business because that's the right decision to make.
I love that.
And it's not, I don't think it's like about like, I woke up and we're going to sell the house. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about making like, it's not about indulging our intrusive thoughts or anything like that. But it really is like, there was a point where like I was having a slight freak out, a slight mental breakdown just about the space. What are we doing? Like, what is this? Am I going to be good enough at this to like do it and make it real and authentic and whatever else? And Yash kind of came to me with this and was just like, he was like, one, yes, we will figure this out. You can do this. But two, like, we've made this decision and it's not the point of being like, we're stuck with it. It's just being like, there was a reason we made this decision and there was thought and some amount of intellect that went into this. We have to believe in ourselves and believe that it's not like that we can do this and that we've made this decision for a reason and it's a good decision to make. So it's helped, like it helped tremendously. And if anything, it helped me sort of be like, how will we like keep this place going on rentals alone? We won't. We're going to support it with the larger scale contracts that we do, the bigger projects that we do that are like, we take on clients for social media projects where they are through us able to post at least 3 professional videos every week. And then all that are scripted, shot, edited, done here, done at their location, whatever else, but like really nice, really professional media. And then we also help them with all of their personal stuff. So we don't do social media management. I'm not going to take over your account, but we do guidance and strategy, meaning that like, we're going to help you write all of this. We're going to script it. It's going to be on brand for you because we have a branding brief together that has all of the words you like and all of the like vibes and tones and everything that needs to be like conveyed. It talks about your business goals. So everything that we've made for you is like aligned with what we're doing for the whole sort of overarching project. And then anything that you're posting from your phone personally, we've guided you on. You have a caption already written that's in a Google Doc. So like that's what we're able to do, like as when we say like a media service provider, like that is truly like what we do. But I think because we were able to sort of like come together and focus on that part of our business, it took a lot of pressure off of this space, which is beautiful and we love it. But like, it's so nice outside. Like we're not going to get like 8 hours of rental every single day. And we'd need a significant amount of rental to like only run this as a space. So it's really important that we have this sort of like multifaceted business that serves our clients and actually lets us like run the stuff that we want to run. So
and at one point, no matter how professional your media is, no matter how best equipment that you use, if you're running it out of a basement, there's a cap to what you can charge your clients, right? And then now all of a sudden you have your own studio, you've made the upgrade of the space. Now you bring in the same equipment, but in a studio, you're able to charge a little bit more, that premium, the studio premium sort of thing. So I'm all about charging more.
Well, and it makes sense. It makes sense for our business that like, if we can't, and we do not have an extravagant life by any means, by any means. But if we can't live our life, if we can't buy groceries and be comfortable, and again, it's not extravagance comfort, but it is like we can't be, for all intents and purposes, living on the street and providing things at the cheapest cost that we can. We are a premier and premium service provider. So like, that's what it has to be. We have to have a certain level of equipment, because if you come in here and we're shooting everything on our iPhones, which I mean, have a great camera on them, but it's not what you'd expect to see. And it's not where you would want necessarily your money to go to either. So I don't know. It's like the contracts are important because like we provide a lot of content and things that are well aligned and professionally created, that to offer it for less, we literally would not be able to survive as a business, and we would not be able to provide you that service. So we'd all be out to sea. What would we all be doing then? So anyways.
It's also like it feels like a good, you're aligning yourselves with good partnerships.
Yes. Yeah.
So I've noticed that you're aligning yourself with content creators. Yeah. So they come in here, and then other wannabe content creators are seeing the high quality that you're producing. Yeah. And then not only is that good for your content creators, but it's also good for you. Yeah.
We get I have no shame in telling you that we get so much more engagement and traction and just straight up likes on content that other people have included us on, because we write off of their audience. Like we don't have a 6,000 follower audience right now. We've been a business for 3 months. Right. Yeah. So I'm proud of where we're at on social media, and it's a good like representation of like what we do. But yeah, like we're not influencers. We're not like, we're in a lot of ways, we are content creators. We all are, because we're online and we are creating content. But that's not like the main, that's not in our 2-sentence blurb about our business. But yeah, that's been it's also just like fun. It's good looking people, which is, everyone comes in, I'm like, oh my gosh, just another beautiful person in this space. But it's also people who are also entrepreneurial, who also like have been at the social media game perhaps like longer than we have. Like we learn from them, but yeah, there's just such a nice sort of like reciprocity with that coming in of being like, that's what I'm saying, where I'm just like, we don't need to, our focus is so on the other side of our business so that we can offer this space. Yeah. Because especially for content creators, like especially in Canada, like you don't get paid for your content. Like you're using your content to funnel revenue in other ways, which is awesome and very smart. Yeah. But like, yeah, you're not just going to get like a check for putting a video out. Yeah. So if you need to put something out that's beautiful and high quality, and the $75 that it costs to rent this place for an hour is going to get in the way of you doing that, then I will not charge you $75. You can come in and use a space. Like, because then I'm going to get 150 likes on the thing that you make. And like, I love that. Like, that's good for our business. So, and we're like, community is a big thing for us. It's always been a big thing, because we don't want to just be other photographers or other like photography sort of oriented space that takes away from the community. We want to add to it. So come in, use the space, make something cool, tag us in it.
Now, so speaking of content creators, and because I'm from a small town, I would assume that your audience or clients are in the city. So what made you come to Walkerton and come up with this idea?
You go for it.
Okay, I've talked so much.
But you're so good at it.
Yeah.
I don't say that. It fuels the fire. This area is rad as hell. I love this area. And I think that there's just so much, the city just gets too much credit. It's like, you know, there's something too to be said. I don't know. I find it's so frustrating sometimes because it really does feel like it has to be the city. It has to be Mint Room or Park Hill or whatever. Gorgeous spaces, lovely businesses, but it doesn't have to be that. And as people who, like, we kind of came out here, and admittedly, when we came out here, we were like, in 5 years when we renew our mortgage or whatever, like maybe we'll go look at Stratford. We'll go try and get a little bit closer to like one of our parents. And like, I hope this isn't, I think we're agreed on this. I hope this isn't too shocking to you, but like, I'm not moving. Like, I live out here now. I will be living here. That's it. Like, our daughter, who's Jacqueline, who's also Jake is her nickname. Jake will go to school here. She'll do her entire schooling here. And then if she wants to leave for post-secondary, that will be her choice to do. So that's like been a big shift for us, but it's also just like, I feel so personal about it because I'm like, I think it's very cool. And it's very obvious to me that it's very cool. So you should think it's very cool too. And like, that's, you know, that's where storytelling and us sort of providing some of that background and our thoughts and feelings on stuff comes out. But I think that it's important for us to have genuine, like, businesses that aren't just like, oh, well, we need it in the country, so I guess I'll just like, whatever. Yeah. It needs to be real. It needs to be genuine and things that people care about in order to actually like get some traction and be, I hate to be like, oh, it's cool, but like to be cool, to like be a place that people actually like want to come into and spend time in. And like, we've got these great businesses down the street. Guest House is a perfect example where like the coffee is great, what they sell is awesome, but it is cool. It's a cool place to go into. There's cute people working there. Like, you go in and it feels like an experience, and that's what we want to provide here. And I think that's just like, so it's so a part of like what's important to me and what I feel I bring to the business. But I think it's just really like, it's important to be in this area and to represent it. And especially because like, we're not from here, but we feel very passionately about this area. We love this area. You're stuck with us, Bruce County. Like, we're not leaving. So yeah, like, it's just, I think it's important for us to have access to the same high quality of media providing and spaces and boutiques and retailers that we get in the city. We might not get as many of them, but I think it's even more important for us to then like make sure that we're really like serving people and doing a good job of that. So,
and I'll come back to that city. This is more target. This is actually not targeted to the city audience at all. Actually, there's no single marketing campaign that we have that targets Hamilton, Toronto, all that area. All our campaigns are targeting people in Bruce, Grey Bruce area sort of thing. So we kind of recognize that. First of all, there is nothing like this in this area. People have to go down to Cambridge, Toronto to do this. And traveling's inconvenience. You know, ask any person that lives here is like, oh, Toronto traffic, I don't even want to deal with it, sort of thing, right?
Or it's the highway is shut down because it's covered in snow. Like, if you're in town, you can still get to us. We'll help you.
So we opened up hoping and wishing that it's people around here that we target and they come down here and they understand the importance of visual representation of their business, and they would seek out help. And instead of having to go to the city, the help is just around the corner.
I think there's a real element to, for better or for worse, because I think there's a benefit to it, but there's also a kind of con to it as well, that things take longer to come out here. And that's something that like many people who we've interacted with who are from the area have like, you know, it takes a couple years for this trend or this kind of thing to come out to this area. And that's fine. And we acknowledge that, but also like, it doesn't have to, like, especially for like the level of media and kind of content creation that we can provide for our clients. It's like, you actually want to be on the forefront of this happening now. This is a thing to get in on. It's not a thing to wait for 5 years when, let's hope, fingers crossed, but probably like we won't be able to take you as a client anymore because everyone is doing this now. So hop on this. It's the same with this space. It's like, this space doesn't exist in this area. That's why we've created it. So that, you don't have to do the drive, but also so that like you have a beautiful place to go that's like local to you, that's owned by people who live up the street. And like, whatever else. But yeah, in terms of sort of like the media side of things, it's like 100% get it that not everyone likes social media. It can be a pain in the butt to do and keep up with, but like I couldn't, I don't think you can make an argument to say that it's not important. And so what we're doing right now is what people are taking advantage of in the cities. And if you want to be ahead of what's going to happen in 5 years from now, then come work with us.
Yes. Yeah. So small town Lion's Head who says, their invasive thoughts are like, I can't do that. You'd have to drive down to the city to do that. No. You're making it accessible for them.
You can definitely do it, and we are here to help. With whatever challenges that come.
You say that a lot. Like in all of my talkings with you, you're very like, you can do this.
Yeah.
If you have a dream, we will make it happen.
100%.
I'm like probably whatever. I'm probably over the top on social media. There's several conversations that I've had with people where like we've chatted once or twice. I've been like, hey, come in. I love this cat, whatever. Just, sort of introductory stuff where then they'll post something and I'm like, you should do podcasts. You should write a book. If you got in with HGTV and did this, then like you could probably get a book deal from that. And I'm not saying that to be like, and we'd ride your coattails. I'm like, no, you're cool as hell. You should go do this. Like someone recently who has a lovely following, really great following, is a designer in the area, was like, what do you want to see next from me? And I was like, design content, like teach us, girl. You are such a like powerhouse. I want to learn from you. But also I sent her a second message to be like, transition's real nice to a book deal. Like you just take that content and you get yourself a copywriter and a graphic designer and you pop it into a book and you take it, like, you know what I mean? Like, so we're not like, there's actually contracts that we work for at no cost because we're interested in helping that person's career, and ultimately, it will look good for us to be like, this person is a major player in this area and they've worked with us the entire time. But I'd say both of us, me in particular, because it just doesn't stop sometimes, but like we just have so many ideas all the time that like we don't gatekeep. Like we're not about we're not like, well, you can have them if you come work to us.
Right.
No, like here, take all of my ideas.
Yeah.
If you get to a point where you're like kind of overwhelmed by the amount of like insane ideas that Cara has, I can help you organize them and like make them. We have all of the equipment to actually help
my ideas, but now I'll help you organize them.
You are maybe potentially just going to be overwhelmed by the amount of them, which is how my brain functions all the time. But like, that's it. Is like, we're not here to be like, well, but this. It's like, no. I have this idea for you. Please take it. And if you don't want it, then mute me on Instagram.
No, your energy
that's
is
it, because I can't stop. Like I have to just give you ideas all the time.
Your energy is so addicting. I'm just like listening to you talk and I'm like, we're probably the same age. I might even be older, but like you're who I want to be when I grow up. Like honestly.
That's the best compliment.
I like love the energy. And
I'm so happy.
I want to be you in like 2 years. Like my energy is like with the podcast.
6 months, girl. You got it. This afternoon. You're done.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen sooner.
Oh, it's and I think a lot of this comes from the fact that like this is like not come without struggle. Like we have had lots of challenges. We've had challenges with our business. Full what am I trying to say? Full transparency. Like it's been hard in our relationship at points. Like we are constantly with each other. Like we're always and just like we don't always have the same vision for stuff and whatever else, but we work hard and we believe in our ideas and we get really over the top excited about stuff and we just try and support each other. And then sometimes we say, I need to stop talking for 5 minutes. I actually just need to not talk about work for 2 seconds. I'm going to go walk the dog. And that's, I think like we've learned to do a good job of being like, sure, dude, no problem. Like, because we can't be on all the time. And
it's
anyways, it's for me at least, like I am a high intensity person. Like I'm very passionate about things, but then I also need to like go be by myself for half a day or every once in a while. Yash will just be like, we have a family cottage in the area and it's cottage. So no one's like living at it regularly or whatever, but Yash will be like, why don't you go take the dog to the cottage for the night? And I just like go have a little like sort of bachelorette evening where I make myself something that I want to eat and I drink one beer and I take the dog for a walk and I go to bed at 8:30 and it's great. And that keeps us functioning. And every once in a while, Yash needs to have a day where we leave and he sits in his bathrobe and he plays cricket or Stardew Valley for the whole day.
I like video games a lot.
Yeah, that's his.
Yeah.
That like we're a
That's
video
my
game family, but
decompression.
you decompress. His Stardew Valley farm is. I wish we could monetize it because it's an incredible business.
Yeah.
Even when you relax, you never take time off of being a business person.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like it's like every time I come in, he's like, "Well, I've revolutionized this way of farming some."
What do you call it? Starter
It's a game called Stardew Valley.
Oh, okay.
And something unique about that game is like a one person designed the game, the music, the story, the graphics, and everything. So we were really into it for that aspect. And then once we started playing it, we were like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome."
It's another like somebody's wonderful, crazy passion project sort of thing. But it's it's really cool, and we've both really connected with it. But it's a big time decompression for Yash, and I think it's great and hilarious. We love video games. I think I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
It's another visual thing. So
true. Yeah, I love when my husband plays video games because I'm like sitting beside him reading and he completely ignores me. I completely ignore him.
And it's like you can kind of tune in every once in a while and then you can tune out. And I will say Yash often is like, I will be doing a PowerPoint presentation on the style of farming that I'm doing right now. Like he does like to explain everything that's happening on his farm all the time, but that's great. Yeah. That's what I'm there for. We're not talking about work, so
that's the real reason why you came to Walkerton.
Yes,
to be surrounded by the farms.
To get
get a little bit more inside intelligence to do better on your farm.
To do better in the game.
So we're using your podcast equipment, I have this fancy little microphone, and I'm curious. So let's talk about your podcast offerings.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of my listeners, and maybe I'm just tooting my own horn, but listen because they like in the back of their mind they're like, I want to start my own podcast. How do I do it? And is it too much? What's the time constraint? What's the money constraint? Yeah. So what do you offer here for podcasters?
Yeah, I'll take the lead on that one. Basically, you can have a genesis idea of the podcast and come in here and we'll figure out how to achieve the end goal. Or you could come in saying, I want this setup, I want this lighting, and I want the mics to go here, and we'll be the behind the scenes people to shoot that. What we see here right now is maybe 20% of the equipment. This is not that. Like we don't have the XLR mics, we don't have the soundboards. Right. It's just three people having a conversation, and I feel like this setup is a little bit more cozy. Yeah. But we could switch the modes. We could go beast mode, and we can get all the XLR mics, and we can have 6 people hooked up to the soundboard and have a podcast record that way, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. One thing that I really pride on our service is we also have a live switchboard. So let's say there's a podcast that I am not a part of. I'll be behind the scenes monitoring the podcast and live switching the video on whoever's speaking. So you're speaking and I'll select the button that the camera only shows you. And while I'm doing that, everything's being recorded on a hard drive. So one good thing that comes out of it is as soon as we are done the podcast, I hit the stop button. That hard drive contains live video switching of the podcast. So instead of you sending it to your editors or taking it to your screen and be like, okay, now I have 2 different camera angles and I have to put everything together, that's a lot of time. What we've done is we've eliminated that, and you have a ready to go file, ready to post file before you walk out to the studio, sort of thing. Yeah. So before, what would have been, I have to get the equipment, I have to get the people in, I have to find a studio space to record it. Not only that, now I have to take it back and edit it. Yeah. All that is wrapped up into one neat little package. You come in, bring in as many guests as you want. We figure out the podcast.
well, 6.
Hey,
a live studio audience.
That's the thing. If your requirement is more than 6 people, if you do require live audience, we'll figure something else out.
We got you. We'll problem solve.
Outside podcast sort of thing. Yeah. Again,
we're going to Jubilee Hall. It's beautiful. It's also historic.
Yeah. I'm part of Kinsman in Walkerton. Okay. So renting the Kinsman Hall is super easy. So essentially, all you have to do is make that decision that you want a podcast. And no matter if you're intermediate, if you're advanced user, if you've never done it before, we have the equipment to support everything that you need for setting up a podcast.
I'm going to add something to this.
Yeah.
From Mr. Technical. I think one thing that also keeps people from kind of jumping into this world is that like, okay, now it needs to be like I'm posting every week. It's a multi-season. I'm having these guests on. A lot of what you are seeing on Instagram is fake as hell. Like it's simulated. It's a set like this where, the audio and the video is being recorded, but like, it's not something like what you do, Becky, where you have a podcast that people can listen to every week. Oftentimes what you're seeing in terms of sort of like realtors, influencers, people who create, like content creators, people who create content on Instagram and TikTok, who are sitting there with a mic in front of their face and headphones. That is not a real podcast. That is a set that they have put together for the purpose of creating content. And it's an awesome platform. It's such a great way for you, especially people, content creators, realtors, people who have like sort of not a weird amount, a necessary amount, but a large amount of industry knowledge that isn't always applicable to every situation. You're not going to want to, I'm going to use realtors as an example because we talk to them a lot. You're not going to want to like have someone in an open house where you're like, I'm going into my like data from Star Trek mode where I'm giving you every single point of every single, you cannot do that. It's obnoxious. As much as some people like myself do actually kind of like that amount of information. Not everyone's weird like me, but it's such a great way of conveying information and to position yourself as like an industry thought leader for things in a way that's, I think, more natural and just like, I don't know, less awkward and cringy than just kind of being like, hello, I'm Cara. Art is this, art history, whatever. So I think that's another thing too, that like, that's again, something we're not interested in gatekeeping, is that like, it doesn't have to be review me on iTunes. I'm going out for the podcast award. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a legitimate, real podcast. It can be content that looks like a podcast that positions you to talk about all the good stuff you want to talk about. And not to go too sales on this, but sometimes people are like, well, what am I going to talk about? We can help you with that. Right. That's what we do. Like, so
you can help yourselves with that. Chat GPT is available for
say,
everyone,
totally. You can do it. Yeah, you can do it
Yeah.
yourself. And oftentimes, like, that's the level of client that we're working with are often like, yeah, I can clean my own house, but I hire someone else to do it because they do a better job and it is their business.
Yeah.
And that's the same for us. It's like, yeah, you can. 100% you can go do all of this yourself, and I'll probably give you 1,000 ideas at 3 a.m. and you'll block me on Instagram. But like, we can also help you with this. And that's something that like, if the reason you're not doing it is because you're like, I don't want to have to do a multi-season whole thing and I don't know what to write, we can help you with all of that. Like, we'll make it 6 videos that you can post and repost.
And you can make them in an hour.
You make them in an hour and you have all of them right away. You post them as they are relevant to what you're talking about online.
I've listened to podcasts. I remember I was like interviewing for a job and the podcasts were literally 2 minutes long. Just someone had just sat down and interviewed. There was like a question that someone might ask you and how you should answer it. And then they would go to the next podcast interview. The question they would ask you. So, and that's just really
instant
fast sound bites.
gratification.
Yeah.
That's the age that we live in right now.
And I think we're also just like in an age of media where nothing has to be anything. You can have a podcast that's 2 minutes. You can have a podcast that's 4 hours. You can have a podcast that only happens on Instagram and is all video. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're not, I think like, because podcasting has been around for a while now and it's become gone from like being a weird niche thing to being a super legitimate medium to like businesses have podcasts now, like big corporations have them, but man, do anything. You know what I mean? Like you could have a podcast of dogs barking and fart sounds and people would be like, this is hilarious. I love it. Yeah. So
and I'm also thinking like YouTube videos, obviously, clearly. But when people ask me like, what would be your dream job? I'm always like, remember Ricky Lake? Remember Jenny Jones?
Yes.
So you could do that here. I could just invite couples in that are having some serious, like a couples counselor on the couch here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And post that on YouTube.
Yep, for sure. And that's the thing too, is like, I think that there's a real sentiment still with everyone where they're like, people don't want to see that. Oh, girl, people want to see everything. There's nothing that people don't want to see.
There's an audience for everything.
You could do, I was going to be like, you could do a tour of your sock drawer that you'd get a niche audience for that, I'm sure. But like literally anything.
There's an audience
and that's something that we talk about when we work with realtors, where we're like, people don't want to see 100% listing. It's boring. I can go drive around my own town and look at houses, and I do. But like, people want to see like, oh, she puts a different creamer in her coffee than I do. Like, her truck is slightly different. Her kids like go to the same schools. We probably not. Kids' school content is probably not going on your social, but you know what I mean? Like, it's that being able to like relate to those sort of like personal elements that like is huge, and is a thing that people, I think, again, should be strongly encouraged within their comfortability to like put online. I'm not saying like, I don't know. I think there is a line to it. I don't think it needs to be everything, but I think like if you're comfortable with it, then you should go for it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump back to the point we were talking about before, is when we record the podcast, everything is shot horizontally. If you needed editors to turn that into vertical reels, we also provide that service. So it's not like, oh, now I've done all this work and now I have this file and I still have to edit it. If you didn't even want to do that part, you could leave it with us, and then we can cut the horizontal clips into small vertical 10 to 20 second clips. And from one podcast, you're looking at 60, 70 reels.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
We've done like a less than half day shoot, like more than 2 hours probably, but less than 4, where we have literally gotten 50 plus videos from it. Like, that's months of content that you're able to just write a caption that makes sense and that promotes your business values, and schedule it and do not think about it. Set it and forget it. And like, I think that's, set it and forget it is a good philosophy when you like and are proud of the content you're making. I don't agree with set it and forget it if you are making content for content's sake, because that's not what we do. Like, we're not here to just be like, I don't know, adding more garbage to the landfill, for truly lack of a better words, but like, when we make stuff for people, it's intentional, it's aligned with their values, it's aligned with their goals and what they do for their business. And
we'll take a quick little pause. I'm going to change one of my equipment, and then I'll jump right back in. But it is.
I think also usually the host says when we're taking a break on the podcast.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, geez.
No, my gosh.
Presumptuous guests here.
Never. But we're good to go again?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're rolling.
Where were we? Because I was going to say, well, we kind of took that little break, but so you've always been entrepreneurial, right? You have.
I had wanted to be. I always had jobs, and in those jobs, I was like, I could do this better if I was the owner, sort of thing, right? And of course, when you're young, you're ignorant and you're cocky, but I've gathered all the life experiences that I have, and I was like, no, I can really run my own company.
Very quick side note. Speaking of when we met, Yash worked 7 days a week. He had a job that was 6 days because he worked at a mechanic shop 5 days a week, and then they'd work Saturdays as well. So he'd work like until 1, but it's most of the day still.
Saturday,
and then he was working like at the cash counter at a gas station, I think, on Sundays. And we started dating, and I was like, I will have to ask you to stop one of your jobs. Like, when will you see me? Like, it just doesn't work.
True.
And the job on the Sundays was like far away, and there was just like a bunch of stuff that didn't work for it. But like, he hustles, this man. Like, he likes to work, and he's good at it.
Yeah, I like the work.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, you remind me a little bit of my husband after all this too, because he just started a job. He just opened a business too, a sports store. And he works 4 days at his job and then 3 days at the sports store. Nice. Yeah, so we don't.
Nice.
Yeah. But when you were saying like, when you were saying something like, I never see Jacqueline, that's like my husband. He's like, this is my dream, opening a sports store. I was like, but you never see us anymore. So
I mean,
tricky.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Priorities change all the time. When I'm like, okay, when I was working as a mechanic, I wasn't able to see Jacqueline. I'm gonna do something about it. Now that I see the potential of it, I was like, maybe the first 5 years of Jacqueline's life, if I focused here, I'll have the rest of the life with Jacqueline together.
That's true. I try to keep some of that philosophy in check, but also I think that it's important that like, we want to be home with her, but it's also important for her to see us working hard and doing stuff that like we love and we're passionate about, and that we're doing like ultimately, like, not to be like, oh, we're doing it for you. We're not. We're doing it for us. It's our passion. Like, she doesn't know what any of this is. She's 2.5. But like, we're doing it so that she has a lifestyle that works for her. And it's, like, we literally just yesterday, she and I started forest school together, and we go for 3 hours.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I would be able to do if I had a desk job at a tech company. Like, so, and I met a whole bunch of other really cool moms. It was so nice. So like, it's just like, we are busy, and we, you know, have a kid who is in daycare full time. It's not as if we have so much time that we're able to take her out of that or whatever, but we are able to start supplementing it with some different things. And
there's a lot of flexibility. If we were like, hey, I have no shoots today, Cara's free today, cool, we're not sending Jacqueline to daycare, and we're taking her out somewhere else, sort of thing. So that's not available with a regular 9-to-5 job, sort of thing. Or I guess you're consuming your vacation days and whatnot, sort of thing.
It's also like we have a real seasonal flow, especially with Yash's business, where like it's the first winter or two, we were like, oh, it's really going to slow down. Well, you know, maybe he'll have to go get like a part-time mechanic. It didn't at all. It was like, it stayed pretty steady, but it's not quite as, it's not quite as busy as the summer, but that also means that like we're home a little bit more in the winter, which is nice. The weather's not as nice. And
the entire week of Christmas, nobody's selling homes, nobody's buying homes, right? So we're mostly automatic holiday for us. Absolutely.
Yeah, even like this morning when I dropped my kids off at school, I like got in the car and I was like, this is like the best part of my day. I mean, like, I used to drop them off I used to rush them before school, drop them off if they needed like an extra hug, being like, I have to go. And now it's just like so peaceful in the morning. We walk to school. So so like, you just have to redefine success. Like that is successful to me, rather than being like, getting an extra week of paid vacation. Walking the boys to school every morning is the best part of my day.
It's super nice.
Most days. Okay, so how has the local community embraced the studio?
Amazing. This I'm going to go back to like, this came into existence because house to home photography did so well, and the reason why it did so well is because everyone embraced it really nice. When we started out, I would send out emails at like 9 o'clock at night, and I'd get reply like 9:15 saying, cool, come on down to our office tomorrow and let's have a chat. I mean, that's a dream come true, right? Like, you're doing outreach, and in the 10 minutes, the client replies back to you saying, yeah, I would like to have a conversation with you. So never did I ever get dirty looks. Never did I ever get like, oh, like a media guy, cool, we don't want to work with him.
No door slammed in your face.
Yeah, or that's for city folks. It's not for us. Like, none of that happened. Any office that I've walked into, they were welcoming enough. They had to listen to what I had said, and I made my points, and they were like, cool, like, we'll keep you guys in mind, sort of thing. So that's how the first part of the business took off, and that's kind of resonated with the second bit. Like, we know we've gone to a lot of businesses and just introduced ourselves, and we were like, cool, is 30 minutes enough for the whole block? No, 30 minutes was enough for the next door neighbors, because we ended up chatting that long, sort of thing. So everyone's been so welcoming. There's already been a couple of businesses that came in here, took some photos. We're talking to a retail business down the street that we're going to make podcasts with. Awesome. So considering there's only a handful amount of businesses in downtown Walkerton, they've all welcomed us so well.
And I think it's like, it is something that, like, the need for this type of business is fairly well recognized. So it's, I think we get like some amount of people being like, oh, okay. Never would have thought of that. Cool. But like, people have been very welcoming, and there's just like, really is like a very strong sort of entrepreneurial spirit in this area. So I think I think as long as you're coming in with a business that like makes sense and actually like is a good fit for the community, which I think we are, then like, people are just like, oh, great. Other people who kind of think the same way that we do. Like, that's great. These are going to be more people who are interested in like keeping our downtown looking nice. Like there's a lot of, there was a lot of support, and a lot of, now that it's made, activity in this park that's like right down the street from us. And like, it's nice. It has a real like community vibe to it. And it's just, I think there's a lot of pride in this downtown, and we've come into this business to add to that community and to embellish, and not to take from or diminish in any way. And I think like the way that I think we do a good job representing ourselves, and I think people pick up on what we're putting down.
Walkerton in general, like, this is telling of Walkerton that it's been so welcoming. When we moved in 2021,
21,
yeah, we were like, oh, how are people going to take city folks coming into their town, sort of thing. We know our 10 neighbors down this way, 10 neighbors down this way, bunch of neighbors across the street. Everyone knows them by first name basis. You don't know people. You just like wave at them and say hello, and they return that back.
We
to
met
you,
more
right?
people in the first 2 weeks that we lived in Walkerton than the 2 years that we lived in our condo.
Oh, wow.
Like it was really, it is, and it's is it fueled by curiosity about city people? Yeah, for sure. I'm sure some of it is, but that's fine. Like, you know what I mean? We're relatively outgoing people, and we're here because we like it here, and we're not here to like take advantage or be, I don't know. We're here to be like active, positive community members. And I think like that is what other people look for as well. And so we've related well with the other people, like with other businesses and all the fine folks that we know in town. It's a great,
well, I do want to start wrapping up because I have to head home and actually do my own work this afternoon. But
fair enough. We can help you with that.
Do you have a small business hack? I always like to ask, like, I put down here, like, every decision going forward is the right decision.
Yeah.
And I really like that one. But
I have a business hack.
Okay.
My hack is, it's probably another one of those cheesy one-liners. If anyone can do it, you can do it. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing. One time Cara and I were chatting, and I was like, if I had to give Jacqueline one piece of advice, I will tell her that if you see someone else has done it, they're doing it, you have all the capacity to do it yourself, sort of thing. So if you're seeing some other small business that's successful, cool, you just have to figure out how, but it is possible, 100%.
I feel like I think that too. Like I was like, I could have been a brain surgeon.
100%.
I just didn't want to. But I could have.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, and also on the, like, I want to, because that's drives me a lot, is like my own, I have a hard time doing stuff that I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
And then I have a hard time not getting obsessed with the stuff that I do have interest in.
Yeah.
But I think for me, and a big thing that we've learned is that like Yash and I actually work quite differently. Like I'm more of a morning person in that like I'll wake up really early and start just getting stuff out of my head. I do a little bit of time blocking, like whatever else. I don't do it every morning. Our daughter doesn't sleep well, so sometimes we sleep in. But then once that's out of my head, I'm more like, I need to have a coffee. I need to walk the dog. I need to, check in on my girlfriends, my correspondences, see if I have any voice notes, whatever else, check Instagram. And then I make it into the office and I need to sit down and I'm a creature of comfort. I need to have the things that I need to have in order to get in the right mind frame. Yash is a workhorse. Like he is just like, work needs to be done and I will be doing work now.
Yeah.
Now the work commences and he'll work really late at night. And I work early mornings. I'll work into the night, but we, I think, have struggled at points of being like, I don't get why you do this way. Or like, it's annoying to me that like you're sitting and drinking coffee, looking at your phone and I'm doing something else. But there's always, I think, like being aware of those trade-offs and being aware that like we both work hard. It's just not going to look exactly the same every single day. Mm-hmm. We definitely have nights where we're both like tapping away on our keyboards until 11. He works much later than I do. But I think like kind of coming to a point of being like, the shit is going to get done, but it's going to get done in the way that is preferred by the person who is doing it is powerful because you can spend a lot of time and energy like fighting amongst yourselves and it's kind of a waste of time and it doesn't feel good. And just us working on having a better understanding of each other and what we need to function as human beings has, I think, been really big. And I think we're doing a great job of it.
So in a lot of ways, small business is as much personal as it's professional.
Yeah. Anytime 100%. Someone's like, it's just, I'm like, no, it's not just business. It's literally my livelihood. It's our daughter's livelihood. And it's I wouldn't be here if I wasn't psychotically passionate about this. So like, I got to a point where I couldn't see myself like working for someone else. And especially like working for like a large organization where my goals and values are like not even a part of like a cog in the wheel. They're not even sort of like considered or whatever. Like that just doesn't work for me anymore. Right. So we are where we want to be.
Yeah. And then my last question is my favorite question is always, if you were on death row, it's morbid, what would your last meal be?
Oh, wow.
I'm simple. I'd probably go with pizza.
Yeah, good. I like
Yeah.
pizza.
Pizza? Huh. Oh my gosh, so many different things to pick.
Yeah.
The neighborhood that Yash and I used to live in our condo had this incredible Burmese restaurant run by two sisters, and it truly, truly tragically went out of business because they had a death in the family. That was the best meal I've ever eaten in my life. Like it was so, and we'd go there, we'd get the same thing. They were so lovely. Like we just loved supporting them as a business.
Yeah.
And it was just like
The last time we were there, we were crying before leaving because we were talking with the owners and we found out the story of how they're coming to a close, sort of thing, and
it was so good.
And very sad.
Food's kind of an interesting topic for us because I'm a bit of an omnivore, but I've become more vegetarian because Yash historically has been vegetarian, and he eats a little bit of meat, like white meat mostly, but not always. So there's some things like when we go out or I'm at my parents', I'll have a steak, but that's not something we'd ever sort of make at home.
Right.
But this Burmese restaurant was so good because they had a really wonderful vegetarian, and they also had a meat menu as well. And so we were both able to just just have the best meal of our lives. And then it went out of business, and it was really sad, but it's a wonderful memory favorite meal for sure though. Yeah.
Nice,
Yep.
nice, yeah.
For
Okay,
sure.
I'll have to do some
Hands
research
down.
into Burmese food.
And it's, you know what, like the annoying thing, not annoying, but like it's hard to find. Like that's the only one that we have ever known, I've ever really seen. I think it's a pretty small country too.
I think what I would describe it as is it's a fusion of Indian and Thai food.
Yeah, Thai food. Yeah.
So
it has some of the
Burma, Myanmar would be right in between those two countries, sort of thing, and it has aspects of both the cuisines. So if you like Indian food, if you like Thai food, you're gonna love Burmese food.
I'll have to try it.
We like a good meal, and I also like an experience with my meal a little bit. Like not like I don't want to go to I'll go once in a while. I don't want to go to like medieval times every Friday, but like I like a little, I don't know, something, and like that was just such a delicious meal, such a lovely place to be in, and it was special.
Okay, so where can we find you online? Or where can we find you? What's your address in Walkerton?
In Walkerton, we are 336 Durham Street East. We are right across the street from Brown's Pharmacy and right down the street from the guest house.
Yeah.
Online, we are studio.marigoldmedia for our socials, and we're marigoldmedia.ca for our website.
Perfect. And did you have any questions that I didn't ask that you wanted?
Well, I think you have House to Home has its own separate.
Oh yeah, tell us about House to Home
thing.
too.
Oh, that's more geared for realtors, but if there's any realtors listening here, you can reach me at htohphotos.com or htohphotos on Instagram.
And what's your reach for House to Home?
We do Bruce County as a primary county. We also go Wellington County, Grey County, and Perth.
Bruce, Grey, Huron is your main area because like we're on the coast all the time. But we'll go into Wellington. We'll go to. We have a travel fee structure. We'll go anywhere.
Yeah,
if you want to pay our travel fee, we've
gone down to London and Strathroy, which is like the furthest down that I've gone. Yeah. But clients like the work and they're like, cool, well, we're ready to pay that extra $100 for you to travel down there, and we'll be there for sure.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, absolutely.
Super. Yeah, nice.
Perfect.
I feel like we should be able to hear some sort of outro music that should just play.
I want that live studio audience.
Yeah.
I know, right?
You know what? Like we've talked, and maybe we talked to you about it, but then also we've talked to other people. We were like, this setup, one person is interviewing and hosting one or two other people with maybe 10 people seated, but then live streamed, I think would be a very cool situation. Cool. I think that'd be a nice thing for like an end of season thing for you or something like that. But a little element of that, like laughter, a bit of patter, like whatever else from an actual audience, but then being able to live stream, because like we can't get 100. We can get 100 people in here if we stack them from the ground like sardines.
Awesome. Thank you for letting me use that. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, no worries. No, it's funny, when you're like, oh, right, video. Yeah. Right. Do you need anything from